sent you.
I can't even
pictures. Is that
see
what
you.
looked at?
All I can see is the back, I see the backside of Roger, haha. But he's awfully thin. But Roger, you're really thin. This monitor, it's a good look. I wish I could, I don't know, that's a pretty extreme way to lose weight.
You'll have to come around and look at him.
Well, you gotta get in front of the
He said it's
camera.
70.
Camera's in the middle.
Alright, so we're turning the mics on.
All right, please stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, I'd like to call the meeting to order, show all council members are in attendance, and I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second?
Is there discussion?
I would like to remove F and vote separately, please.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
6F to be removed?
3F.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I second that.
To be voted on separately, so the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
and then I'll have another motion.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on the consent agenda?
On his amendment, will we be taking that separately, or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so it's on his, I'm sorry, is the vote on removing
Yeah,
F?
we'll split it out and
Okay.
bifurcate it.
Ah,
Any-
been hanging around too many lawyers.
Too many bankers.
Oh, fair enough.
Any other discussion? So the motion is to approve the consent agenda, with the exception of separating 3F. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
I make a motion to approve 3F with the following amendment. Change the amount from $19,250,000 to an amount of not to exceed $19,300,000.
second,
Is there discussion on the 3F and the amendment? So I would entertain resolution 3F as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Tonight we have one public hearing, this time place for public hearing in regards to matter of resolution 19-124, which is the resolution approving the plans and specifications for the SCADA upgrade Phase 3 WPCP Project Public Works 17-23 is proof publication on file.
Yes, it is.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Anyone from the audience wishing to address the council in regards to this matter? Seeing none, is there a motion from the council?
motion to approve.
Second?
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance on first reading, ordinance 6386, ordinance to amend chapter 1.65, Council Bluffs Arena and Convention Center Commission by amending sections 1.65.050, 1.65.090, and 1.65.100.
Motion to approve with the exception of under 1.65.050, removing the suggested change to the second sentence and replacing with the following, quote, "Any commissioner who misses 2 consecutive meetings shall be dismissed at the request of the mayor or upon direct action by the city council," end quote.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion on the ordinance as amended? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-125, resolution amending the composition, duties, and responsibilities of the Citizen Police Advisory Board.
Motion to approve with the following changes. In the whereas clause in section 4, where it says, quote, "The board votes on potential member appointment by silent ballot," and at that point, strike the word approval and add affirmative recommendation, and then the remainder of 4 remain the same. That is, quote, "requires a majority vote of the board," end quote. And in number 5 of the whereas clause, quote, "The mayor reviews," and then strikes the board's recommendations and adds all nominations and the board's recommendations, and then continue as currently written, quote, "for potential appointment," end quote.
Second.
Is there discussion on the resolution as amended? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-126, resolution authorizing the acquisition of 3420 Second Avenue and authorizing the mayor to execute an offer to buy and other related closing documents.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-127, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an Iowa Department of Transportation Agreement Number 2020 TS-20 for traffic safety improvement program funding.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
I just want to say I appreciate the administration, particularly, specifically the Public Works Department applying for the grant and received $50,000 towards updating our traffic signals. Many folks may have noticed the flashing yellow turn signal that allows people to keep moving forward when it's safe to do so. It's better for the environment, it's better for traffic flow, and saves people time. This will allow the department to add several more of those, particularly at the most needed intersections. And I appreciate the administration applying for that, and it is a great idea, and I wholeheartedly support it.
I've gotten good feedback from the community when those first started going up. I think people do like that, so.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-128, resolution accepting the bid of Compass Utility LLC in the amount of $958,735.15 for the South First Street Neighborhood Rehab Phase 10.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-129, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an Iowa Department of Transportation Agreement Number 2019-4-145 in connection with the I-29 interstate improvements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-130, resolution to update city personnel policies 400 and 401.
Motion to postpone until the June 10th meeting.
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion to postpone?
I just want to say I agree with Councilmember White's comments at this afternoon's study session. And I'm sure it was an inadvertent mistake. The so-called red line where it would call out specifically the proposed changes did make it into the draft that was presented to us and the public. And in those cases, it's best practice to make sure that's called out so we know exactly what we're voting on and the people know we're voting on. And I 100% agree with her sentiments. I'm sure it was an inadvertent mistake, but this tides it over to the next meeting so we know exactly, and you know exactly what we're voting on.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 19-131, resolution setting the dates and times to permit the discharge of consumer fireworks.
Motion to approve. Setting the dates as July 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Second.
Is there discussion on setting the dates of July 4th, 5th, and 6th?
Just that we had a good discussion this afternoon. I hadn't thought about this frankly. Sometimes we've had different hours on the 4th of July itself, but that's proven confusing to people and difficult for the police, even more difficult for the police to enforce. So I'm convinced upon that further information that having the same time, that is noon to 11 p.m., on each of the days makes more sense.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolutions for permits and not resolutions, applications for permits and cancellations, 7A, B, and C.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, any citizens requesting to be heard?
I've received none.
Anyone from the audience?
Bruce Kelly, 864 McKenzie Avenue. Same thing, trail, other lane. And brought to my attention that we're probably not gonna get those towers down by the river. We're talking about putting high-end apartments in. One of the problems we have that other cities have addressed is transportation, because there's people that work in downtown Omaha area and stuff, they don't have transportation, so they're not gonna wanna live over here. I don't know if that's been brought up, either a transportation deal or something like that. They need like a 30-minute during the rush hour, just go back and forth to Omaha to pick them up and bring them over to the north and stuff, so they don't have to drive. People are looking to where they don't have to drive to work anymore because the cost of parking and everything else. And all those apartments, I think that when it starts filling up, if we're gonna make the people wanna live over here, we have to have transportation. Other major cities have done this, where they have short lines that just to the business areas. It might only go to 30th out there and back in Council Bluffs to that area, and as we expand, it might be able to go down farther into Council Bluffs. But it might be a smaller bus or something like that, but we need to get it to where they can go to the entertainment center off of 30th there and back down into their homes in Council Bluffs.
No, a couple things. One, I'd say that looks like we're not gonna get that. It's probably premature, because I don't know whether we are or we are not. My understanding is the developer of the condominiums and the higher end apartments will be here next week to give us their new proposal, and so we certainly have great hopes that that will move forward. Transportation is an interesting issue. We pay $7.95 per ride on Metro Area Transit, of which the bus rider pays approximately $1.45 of it, and the taxpayer subsidizes the entire difference. And we understand that some people need transportation to get to work. People that value having a job that gives them self-worth to go to work. We struggle with telling them, hey, if you can't drive to work, you can't go to work. But it's an issue we wrestle with, and how we continue to afford to pay for something that's highly subsidized. And we recognize the potential that if there is some type of rapid transit, be it rail or a bus, that gets people at least to UNMC area, that would enhance some of our apartments here. And so we're planning accordingly. We've been to Salt Lake, we've been to Kansas City, we've been to Pittsburgh to look at rapid transit. Again, a very expensive venture that we would prefer not to subsidize based on the back of taxpayers. And so if we have it, it needs to be pay for itself. And the interesting thing is you're right on parking. I mean, you can pay $50 to $90 a month
Downtown, it's like a year.
to park in Omaha, and so do we do a park and ride location that has free parking here? Is that the best use? It's all
Plus,
part
the
of the
people
community.
wanna be able to walk out, go to an area that's close to them, be picked up there, and taken back to Omaha.
And
Maybe if we only need a short, maybe, we'll have to look at, maybe a private company.
well, the other thing that's rapidly changing is modes of transportation.
I know.
Uber left, is that the solution? Will there be small buses that are
That's
Uber
what I was
buses?
thinking, the
Yeah.
smaller bus, just to do the Omaha Metro downtown area and the Council Bluffs West End for now, until we expand, maybe Second Avenue is gonna take off, you might be able to put a bus where they go to 35th, have a bus transfer there, and then come back around and drop them off into the playland area, and then shoot right back to Omaha.
Yeah, and you're right too.
That's the one that that's gonna hurt the growth right there if we don't have transportation.
And I remember right, over the years, I've asked about, we've got these giant buses, and there's 10 people on it, why can't we use the smaller buses and route them differently? But my understanding, I've always been told, is federal government will not subsidize anything other than the giant bus. So if we were to try to run, a short route like what you're talking about, I think is a good idea. But again,
This one had to be like every 30 minutes till up till about midnight, and then maybe every hour after that.
it could get it, that would probably be quite expensive for the taxpayers to figure out how to do. But I guess I would tell you that, I have a son that lives in Florida that does not have a car and will not have a car, and he takes Uber to work every day and back. So, I think the younger generation really doesn't have a problem paying for an Uber ride to work and home every day. And
Well, I think Uber and Lyft and stuff, they're starting to, if you see, it's starting to make cracks on the side where it isn't gonna be like it was pretty soon. I mean, the employees, what they're paying them and what they have to maintain and everything else, they're starting to, in the bigger cities, go offline, and so the price will go up. So because they're not making what the money everybody think they're making. So many people are driving 12 hours a day, and some of them live 2 hours away, mostly in San Francisco, to even do the work. And then they gotta maintain their own vehicle, insurance, and everything. It's starting to become a problem, that's what
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I'm on the First Avenue Advisory Committee, and that is actually part of the overall plan, as we are considering transportation. There's, several different options on the table, and it's all just really in the, just kind of dreaming, planning stages, so. But that is being looked at as part of that committee, so I just thought I'd point that out too, that as we are looking at new development, we definitely are keeping in mind.
The thing I'd say about that is, we do struggle with the current cost. It is unsustainable into the future. We do have to find a way to increase the ridership. And one, really it becomes that issue of the critical mass of how do you get enough folks willing to use it and regularly, so that it can be cost effective and then eventually, hopefully, at least mostly, if not completely, pays for itself. Because there's certain things to be gained by having, there's just a change, particularly the younger generations are going back to many of the things that, for example, my grandparents and great-grandparents would have done in this community, where the idea of mass transit, it's going back, which can be hard for a lot of folks who are used to the 20th century model of the car to accept, because it's not their reality of what they grew up in, it's what their grandparents grew up in a way. And it'll be completely different. It'll be its own unique spin on it, like every couple generations change is in our community. And not many folks riding horses to get around as a regular means. Within living memory of people alive, they knew people who did use horses as a means of transportation. Those folks are still with us who knew people who did that. So it wasn't that long ago. Things change. How do we find a way to make that cost effective? It's difficult because we still have a significant level of fare with the car. One of the things we try to do, there are lots of little things. One of them is insisting that all the sidewalks be placed in new developments, and whenever there's a significant change in an area. We went through a couple of decades in the late 20th century, or mid to late 20th century, where there are whole neighborhoods without sidewalks because we decided we'd drive everywhere. And I think most folks, me included, would say that that turned out not to be a good idea for neighborliness or health, or even just for kids to get to the school bus without having to walk in the street. So it's small things like that. There's no grand solution. Eventually we have to get to something that more folks, frankly more middle class folks, are willing to use on a day-to-day basis. Until we get to that point, that it's something that they want to use, it will never take off. But will it change? I think it will. And the steps, like for example, the commission, the group that Councilmember Head is on, are vital parts of that effort.
Okay. I'm trying. What? Never wanted to hold it. I'm just gonna. I can't really flip this camera, so I'm just gonna make them. I'm not sure what I was.
Here, hand it to me.
Okay.
Solve this problem. There we go. Okay. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the camera, he gotta face the camera to me, cause.
Oh, like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, earlier in this, in the.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Okay. My name is Robert Fairchild. I live at 2412 South 19th Street in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And earlier this year, I asked you guys if you got a response from the state legislature for your open letter about fireworks. Did you ever get a response, or they just went silent on you guys?
There was no changes to the Iowa legislation relative to fireworks.
Okay, so and you don't expect them to ever get back to you now, since it's been so long.
I don't know about that. I know that there are local legislators who would like to see changes. Regardless, there won't be any change for this 4th of July or New Year's because the legislature is adjourned for the year. So.
Okay. Anyways, you guys approved for fireworks this year for be 3 days. I would like to see it like 10 plus days, but Nate didn't want. So I would honestly, if I was a lawmaker in Des Moines, I would try to pass a bill to have it fireworks all year long, and anybody who is doing that for a certain time, you could just have the cops do it as a noise complaint, then a criminal then a criminal action. Anyways, so I'm still against the ban of fireworks because it's anti-free market, and I'm for the free market, and so that's on that issue. And Mel, on May 3rd, you were on Iowa Press, and the last question you took from the person who was asking questions, you gave a really, to me, it felt like a really anti-Republican answer to his questions. Can you expand on that? Why it was...
It wasn't an anti-Republican, it wasn't a pro-Republican answer, it was a home rule. In the 1960s, the Iowa Constitution was changed to grant local government the right to home rule. As I said on that show, I'm the guy that goes to the grocery store and gets talked to by citizens. I'm the guy who goes to the restaurant and gets talked to by citizens as to what their wants and desires are from their local city government. To have a rural legislator in southeastern Iowa tell me what's best for the city of Council Bluffs, I think is not appropriate. And this legislative body, primarily the Iowa Senate, does not believe in home rule. They've preempted that on numerous occasions in the last 2 years, and I'm tired of the preemption. The local government elects their local officials that they can converse with to represent them in what they think is best interest of themselves. And so again, I think because voting districts have been gerrymandered, they take little areas of urban population and commingle that with large areas of rural, and so that the urban representation, which really is the major population of the state of Iowa, no longer has a voice, and we are represented by rural legislators, even though we're an urban centric population in Iowa. And I think that our legislators should be aware of that and should allow cities to grow and prosper for the health of Iowa.
Okay. Okay, so in the past legislators in the EU, how many times have you talked with local officials or federal politicians? Like with local state reps for Des Moines and federal officials to Des Moines?
During the legislative session, I talked to multiple legislators on a weekly, if not daily basis.
Okay, so that would be cool for me, but anyways, in other business for me.
I'm actually the past president of the Iowa League of Cities. I've been the chair of the legislative committee of the Iowa League of Cities, and so I'm really active.
Okay. Anyways, the Libertarian Party of Powhatan County would like to host a forum for the city council members who are running for the 2 city council seats this year. So I will, if you guys could, I'd like to have contact information for my Brian Hofstadter can contact them and help do a public forum for the members, including me, who are running for city council. So,
So papers aren't submitted until August,
August.
so we won't have any contact information until after that date.
okay, so it'll be August 29th.
The end, yep,
At the end,
because
yeah.
anybody can file until 5 o'clock that day.
Okay, so thank you, that's
Thank
all
you.
for me.
Okay, there you go.
One of the things, if I could say about that, is political views are very important, and certainly all of us up here have our own. One of the things I know all of us try our absolute best to do in this body, and I remember former Hannafin who always said he had never seen a pothole that was a Democrat or a Republican. and it's funny because it's like any good joke, it has a great element of truth to it. And so we have our disagreements. Very seldom are they actually really partisan. I can count on one hand in nearly 8 years that have been remotely partisan. And it's a very small list. We really try to look out for one of the great things about this position is it is nonpartisan. And so, because not all the right answers come from any one party. And if people are honest about it, they may not be able to say it in public depending on what their role is in the process, and I get it. But I'll be really frank with you, they're good answers and both sides have truth to them. And they all need to be heard. And our job here is to avoid political games and those things of that nature, and truly look, we get to be elected for the city as a whole for a period of time to look out for what's in the best interests of the community, and partisan politics in that role has nothing to do with it, in my view, never should have anything to do with it.
Well said, I concur. Anything else? All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned.